All right. So now we will move on to item 4, which is our public hearing. It's proposed 2017-2018 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the CAPER, for the Community Development Block Grant, GDBG program. Got Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Council. Arnoldo Rodriguez, Development Services Department. Just for the benefit of the community and the City Council this evening, you may recall that city staff typically comes to the council about 3 times a year to discuss the Community Block Development Grant Program. This evening, we're going to be presenting the CAPER, which, as the mayor indicated, it's a Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which discusses the activities that took place during last fiscal year. So around September, the first meeting of September, city staff is discussing what the funds were used for the previous year. In April of every year, we typically come before the City Council to discuss what the city's planning on doing for the upcoming fiscal year. In March, we typically come to get some feedback and insight from the council and the community and the mayor to talk about what target programs the city should be focused on prior to coming in May. So again, this is a recap of what the city expended its funds on for last fiscal year. So just again, for the benefit of the council, Yuba City is an entitlement community, which is based on our population and our demographics. So the last fiscal year, the city received approximately $586,000. In the fiscal year that we're in today, for example, we actually experienced an increase in dollars, which is excellent for our community. Well, it's excellent that we received additional funds, but it's also negative because it simply implies that we have additional needs. So the slide on the overhead simply describes roughly the dollar amounts in terms of what those services were spent on. So public services, roughly $88,000, which is the maximum that can be provided for public services per the HUD guidelines. So the most that can be spent on that is 15%. The city has historically allocated the full 15% for public services. Those funds historically have gone to programs in different nonprofit organizations that assist people experiencing temporary homelessness. Then we allocated roughly $381,000 for housing programs and public facilities, such as ADA improvements, and then the planning and the administration is roughly $117,000, which has a cap on it, by the way, of 20%. And those are HUD guidelines. So in terms of some of the programs last year, the Senior Handyman Program assisted 11 seniors, the Freed Program, which has a target population of disabled persons. That program assisted 19 individuals. Habitat for Humanity assisted 3 families with for the program when it comes to exterior home repair, and then they also assisted 3 low-income senior residents as well for some interior rehab. The Salvation Army assisted roughly 448 people. The Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium assisted over 1,900 people, and what that's comprised of is several different nonprofit organizations. Historically, one of the things that the city would receive different requests from different organizations. So last year was our first year where we requested that they coordinate their efforts, and last year we had 2 applications, one by the CFC and the Salvation Army. This year, you may recall that all nonprofit organizations got together and filed one single application. So that obviously helps us, and at the same time, it encourages them to help coordinate their efforts because some of their target populations are quite comparable. So in terms of some of the improvements that we did, we had a couple of different ADA improvements for sidewalk improvements. So for ADA, sidewalks at the intersection of roads. We erected a new park or a new play structure over at Southside Park with an estimated benefit of roughly 3,000 people. And we also, we had allocated funds to new roofs, both at Kingwood Commons, which was on Gray Street, and then 5 buildings over at Richland Housing right along Garden Highway, and those have been completed. So this is an example of the play structure that was previously at Southside Park. This is a photo of the new play structure that was installed a couple of months ago. So in terms of public outreach to get to this point, GUD guidelines do require that we publish this in the newspaper and that we have a public meeting to receive any comments that we have may received on the CAPER. To date, we have not received a single comment from the community. So with that being said, we're going to be requesting that the council this evening accept the comments, which again there are none, and that you approve the CAPER as prepared and authorize staff to submit it to HUD. So that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to council for any questions of staff at this time before I open it up to public. No? Okay. We'll go ahead and at this time, public hearing is open for anyone in the, anyone? No? Okay, we'll bring it back. Public hearing is now closed. We'll bring it back for questions or concerns or motion by council.
Through the mayor.
Yes. Yeah, it's loud.
I'm just going to try to be careful so I don't blow the speakers up and cause all the commotion for. Thank you very much. Arnoldo, when you're talking about HUD, they put out with the new administration, the Trump administration, they really put out some new guidelines in how they would like to distribute or have communities distribute the money. Is that correct?
They have placed some guidelines out. They're very similar to what historically existed. There have been some minor tweaks, and then there's some words of encouragement that HUD personnel typically give us in terms of what they're looking for when we submit these reports, or also what we're going to fund.
And part of that, they really wanted to try to streamline some of the funding opportunities and put them into a consolidated package.
Do. Correct.
Okay. And so, oftentimes when we look at these funds, and especially when the community has some input and certainly council has input, there's administrative costs that go or that come out of these funds, correct?
Correct. So last year we allocated $117,000 for admin cost. That's both for personnel, for training purposes, for document retention, and then we also have a consultant that assists us with that process as well.
And through the programs, through the Homeless Consortium and Salvation Army, through those two programs, there's been nearly 2,000 folks that were either homeless or on the verge of homelessness that were assisted through this program. Am I correct?
I believe it's closer to roughly 2,300 folks when you combine the two programs, and those individuals receive some form of assistance, be it assistance in terms of trying to retain the home that we're in, or some kind of other program as stipulated as part of the HUD guidelines. And
just for the public's knowledge, is Yuba City, do we run a Health and Human Services division through Yuba City, or who handles that component within Sutter County?
That would be Sutter County Department of Behavioral Health, who's in charge of that program.
So the funding that was provided towards homelessness is a proactive approach by Yuba City to engage and assist in diffusing some of the homeless issues?
Yes, and the city's under no obligation to actually allocate those funds. However, the city's historically allocated the full permitted amount through HUD guidelines, which is 15% of our entire budget.
All right, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments or motion?
I would move to approve the CAPER and authorize staff to submit the CAPER to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. Thank you.